Hello, peoples of the YouTubes. I am Squee913, and this is Thoughts Behind the Wheel. Do, 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 do. You imagine like some sort of like cool news theme there, because I don't have one. Anyway, how is everyone? Doing well, I hope. Oh God, my headphones! No, no! They're all falling out of my ears for no reason. That's something I want to talk about today. Something that a lot of people keep asking over and over and debate and et cetera, et cetera. It has to do with Mass Effect 3, a good part of Mass Effect 3, because there are so many of them. The whole, do you choose the Geth or the Quarian question? Like if you couldn't reconcile the two and you had to choose between saving the Geth or saving the Quarians, which do you choose? And a lot of people seem to be of the opinion that, because my answer would be I'd save the Quarians, and a lot of people go, you're just doing that because of Tally. No, that's not true. And there's a lot of people out there that go, the Quarians deserve it, and they're the ones that are evil, and blah, 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 blah. And the simple truth is, not so much. You're trying to simplify an answer that cannot be simplified, and just point to the Quarians and how evil they are and how they deserve it. And you are not looking at the overall picture. Let me explain. First of all, let me say this. I don't think there is a right answer. I don't think that it is justified to kill the Geth or the Quarians. It's just a decision that you do and you live with, and that's it. But for all those people that think, I would save the Quarian just because of Tally or something like that, you're not really thinking about it as heavily as some others are. First and foremost, the biggest argument is, look how big dicks the Quarians are. I mean, look, they're the ones that started the war. They're the ones that kept pushing the Geth. They're the ones that even after you tried to save them, they kept trying to fight the Geth. And no, they're not. Hen Garrel and Admiral Zen are the ones that started the war. Hen Garrel and Admiral Zen are the ones that kept pushing to destroy the Geth, even when you wanted them to pull out. You have no idea how the average Quarian felt about the war. All you know is that Tally was against it, Admiral Ron was against it, but didn't think she could do anything about it, so she was just kind of moving with the ocean. And Admiral Chorus was against it. So, really, the only two Quarians that you know that were dicks is Han Garrel and Admiral Zen, because they would just happen to be the ones in charge. Now, is it accurate to say that, well, because they felt that way, all the Quarians must have felt that way? No, of course not. No more accurate than it is to say that we should blame all the Geth for the decisions of the heretics in Mass Effect 1. The simple truth is, you don't know how the Quarians felt. They had no control over whether or not they went to war. The Quarians were a militarized society. When it came to times of war, martial law was declared, and the Admiralty Board were dictators for all intents and purposes. And Han Garrel and Admiral Zen obviously had control of the Admiralty Board. They are the only two that you know of that wanted this war and perpetrated this war. And the Quarian society was built in such a way that those two could have been the only two who wanted this war, and it still would have happened. We don't know how the other Quarians felt about it. We don't know if they wanted this war or not. In fact, we have strong evidence pointing to the fact that they didn't want the war. The Quarians that wanted to save the other one, not Han Garrel, Chorus, Admiral Chorus Vas Quibquib. Remember you saved that one on the planet, and he goes, we didn't want this, So, for all we know, we don't know how informed the Quarians are. And some people go, well, maybe the Quarians would have wanted it anyway, they were all shouting for war. First of all, they weren't all shouting for war. But even if they were, look, when World War I started, Europe was jubilant. Europe was marching in the streets for happiness. They thought it was a rapturous thing. They thought it was fantastic. Could they be blamed for that? No, of course not. They were simply a product of their times. They didn't know any better. They didn't realize how horrible a war could be, because the last war was the Franco-Prussian War that happened before most of them were even born. So they had no idea how horrible the war was going to be. All they knew was the propaganda that had been shoved down their throats since the day they were born about how great their nation was and how easy it would be for them to win a war. We don't know if the Quarians were the same way. We don't know what kind of free press they have or how even knowledgeable they are about the situation. It brings up a very disturbing image to me. After September 11th, the news showed a picture of Afghanistan children dancing in the streets after hearing about September 11th. And a lot of people, including people sitting right next to me when we saw the TV, were talking about how horrible those children were and how we should just bomb them all to hell. And that's just wrong. I'm sorry. It is. You don't blame the entire civilization for the actions of a few. Look, those children and their parents have been raised hearing stories about the evil America. To them, America is equivalent to Mordor from Middle-earth. And I guarantee you, if the hobbits heard about a bomb being dropped on Mordor, they'd be dancing in the streets. That doesn't make them evil. It does not make them evil people. And to say so is just ignorant. I'm sorry, it is. And I'm not saying everyone's ignorant because of a real-life situation versus the Quarian and the Geth. But you have to take a look at the whole situation. We don't know how the Quarians felt about it. We know how 2 of them felt. Maybe 3, if you count the way Tali was in Mass Effect 1. But here's the deal. Tali felt that way about the Geth and all that because she was raised by her father. Her father was one of the 3 who did want war, so she spent her entire childhood hearing about how we're going to go to war with the Geth. Of course she's going to have a clouded view. And in Mass Effect 3, you saw how much that view could have changed when she actually thought and made the decision on her own. So I think that it's wrong to say that the Quarians were all dicks and they kept pushing for war. No, 2 of them pushed for war. And I guarantee that no one here wants to be judged on the actions of 2 politicians, no matter how powerful they are. Should I get like 2 Tea Party politicians and say that this describes half the nation? Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. So why choose the Quarians over the Geth? I mean, are the Geth, are they at fault? Not really, no. Are the Quarians at fault? Not really. 2 of them, maybe. It's a horrible situation, and there is no justification for it. There's a lot of people out there that are just basically trying to justify it, which is human nature. There's nothing wrong with that. But in my opinion, there is no justification. You choose a side, and you live with it, and that's it. There's no right, there's no wrong. Why would I choose the Quarians? The simple truth is it comes down to this. The Geth are sentient. They don't deserve to die. This is very, very, very true. However, shutting the Geth down causes no pain as far as we're aware. As far as we're aware, the Geth do not feel pain the way organics do. They have fear, perhaps, of dying, but if you shoot them, they don't really feel it. Whereas Quarians very much feel pain and agony. And the Geth are all mature adults. The Geth are all the same level of awareness, sentient, you know what I mean? Like, there's no Geth children. They're all platforms that have the same level of intelligence depending on how many are grouped together in it. Whereas the Quarian have, potentially millions of little children that are completely innocent, completely unaware of what's going on. At least the Geth are aware of what's going on. And is that really a justification? No, but I can't bring myself to do it. I can't bring myself to when you give me the choice between a great evil that means the genocide of a race who can't feel pain, or the great evil genocide of a race who can feel pain and has children, I'm sorry, I have to choose the other one and hate myself for it. But, Luckily, it's a video game. I don't really have to make that choice. But there is no right choice. And to say that there is not looking at the picture properly. There's a reason why that's supposed to be a hard choice. And if you're saying, well, I chose the Geth because the Quarians are being dicks, you're just trying to justify something to yourself because it's easier, and you're not really looking at the situation in its full context. You are choosing to believe that because it makes you feel better. And I suppose that's okay, but it's not really accurate. It's like the whole debate of, was it right to drop the nuclear bomb in World War II? There's so many people out there that talk about how horrible it was and there's no justification for it. And it's one of those decisions too. I don't know. I'm not saying that it was justified to do, but I'm definitely not saying that you can just dismiss it offhand. If we hadn't have dropped the nuclear bomb on Japan, killing the 250,000 civilians, the war would have continued. There's no doubt about that. Japan would never have surrendered until we were at their gates. And the amount of civilians and military lives lost on both sides would have many times exceeded the number killed by a nuclear bomb. Now, what should have happened is we should have pushed them back to their island and then maybe just stopped and see what happened then. But that wasn't going to happen. Japan wouldn't have surrendered. America wouldn't have chanced it. As long as Japan hadn't surrendered, there's a chance they could come back. America wasn't willing to take that chance. If the nuclear bombs hadn't been dropped, many more people would have died in the continuing war. And civilians. People say, well, it wouldn't have been civilians. Yes, it would have. Because we would have had to invade Japan's homeland. In World War II, 30 million troops died. 50 million civilians died. That is the reality of war, especially World War II, where we started bombing cities and stuff because of this entire World War II. It started in World War I, but World War II fully manifested the idea of total war, which means everyone was a target because everyone contributed to the war effort. Civilians bought the farm way more than troops did. So to say that the nuclear bombs killed 250,000 civilians is literally a drop in the bucket compared to all the civilians that died in World War II. Am I saying dropping the nuclear bombs was justified? No. I am saying it is a much more complicated decision than most people tend to give it credit for. They tend to just say, oh, it's wrong, without really considering what the cost would have been without doing it. Just like that way. Sometimes people try and make life too easy, and the decisions in life too easy, and try and give justifications to things that there are no justifications for. You make the decision, and you try and live with it. And that's just the way it works. That is war, folks. That is why war is so horrible. That is why war should be avoided at all costs. Because there is no justification to war in general. And there are horrible, horrible things done in war that there is no rational explanation for. And to try and rationally explain it is simply humans trying to feel better about a horrible event. So, yeah. This very uplifting message was brought to you. Oh, God, my microphone. Why do you keep falling? No, oh, God, my hands. My hands, opposable thumbs are failing me. I don't know what it is today. Normally, my headset just stays in perfectly, but for some reason today, it's like, nope, I'm not feeling this ear today. I'm just going to hang free. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.